Good morning. So now we start with another topic of class 12th AI syllabus, and that is your generative AI. We've been hearing a lot about generative AI actually nowadays, but let's get a little bit deeper into it to understand a few things that how they are actually doing it internally. Okay, so let's start. That's a unit 7 of the syllabus, generative AI. Okay. Now, first thing first is that these are the topics which we cover. Of course, introduction, working, basic working setup. We discuss about the discriminative as well as the generative models and how do they differ in the AI paradigm. Various applications of generative AI, few you are definitely aware of, you all are using it nowadays. Then comes the large language model. It is somewhat related to NLP, but how are they actually correlated? We discuss about it and how exactly it is one of the models which AI is using in order to work on your language platforms. Basic features of generative AI, it's definitely going to improvise only, and the ethical and social implications of the same, which is again very, very important. The ethical aspect is actually very important in AI. First is that the word generative AI means actually what? It is basically that concept which is letting you create contents like audio, text, images, anything of your choice based on based on something what you ask him to do. So based on the input you're giving, like you're giving him a text and asking him to convert it into a movie clip. So you're giving him the description and you're saying that please create a video for me based on this content. Or you're saying that I'm giving you a basic scenario. Please create a poem for me, script for me, anything. I want to create a play. This is the scenario. You give him the basic description and you ask him to create the script. So all these things are happening and very much relevant in today's world. People are using it. You also have been using. If I ask you in general, even I have used it many number of times nowadays in the current, you may say, few months, within a few months. So we have been using these generative AI techniques to get our work done faster and in a much more, if you're not very creative in that field yourself, then you might feel that yes, I'm getting a good content. But at times we feel that no, this is not as per my requirement or it's not. So you may improvise also on that, but you get a basic layout, which at times is really, really helpful. Okay. So what is the basic underlying method? What he's following is that it has been trained with lot of information, lot of input, huge amount of information has been given to him in order to train him for working in this kind of a scenario. Okay. And because it has been trained, so it is able to identify the patterns, structures, and relationships between that text or image or videos what we have trained the model with, and then it is able to generate something new for you. Okay. We have been seeing that these are the basic applications, areas of applications, I should say, that you may generate new images or you may generate new audio. It could be music, it could be song, it could be you give him the music, you give him he creates the, um, video along with that, whatever. I mean, basic four things we are talking about generating here: images, audio, text, and video. Four things. Okay. So it's really come up in the past few years, I believe, and creating a havoc at times, because we have also seen that certain videos, certain things, what it creates, AI generated content, is absolutely unethical. It is absolutely fake, and then it creates other problems, right? So that is why I would say it is creating a havoc also at times. But these are the basic applications of generative AI. Certain tools. Now, I've given specific names to it because I saw in the previous exam papers that they have been asking you to, kind of name a few tools, or identify which tool is for what. So, though there are many, I mean, you cannot really remember all the names, it is not possible. But a few names under these categories of text generation, image, music, code generation. Nowadays, even code is being generated. You specify what you want and he's generating the code for you. Then a voice synthesis. I would give him some input that I want the audio to come out in this kind of a voice. You know, everybody has a different voice. So voice synthesis tools are there. So many of them are there. I have just listed a few which I found in the material shared by CBSE only, and a few other places from where I picked up. But there could be many more. So work on it and you'll find uh, many more tools which you may use on your daily basis. See, as of now, we've been using mainly ChatGPT or Gemini, or, just a few of them, Canva, or a few other platforms where we actually use these generative tools. But there are many more where you can work on. Like for image generation, you have DAL-E, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion. You may try a few and see how they are better than each other, or they are similar. Just a few examples you may try on your own. But try to remember these names as much as possible. They've been using it in the exam papers. Now let's come to the working. Like how exactly uh, internally the setup works. Okay. Of course, because it is being trained on huge amount of data, we say that it is in the definitely machine learning, but even more to the core, deep learning. It is employing neural networks also to understand the intricate patterns, structures, and the relationships within the data during the training. And then only it is able to give you that final output. Okay. Now, these two categories of working has been defined, which are called as the models also. Various calling models facilitate this task of image and text generation. Okay, one is called the generative adversarial networks, GAN, and the other one is the variational autoencoders, in which I feel GAN is a more popular model which they are using. The term is a little difficult to remember, maybe, but yes, it's an important term. Generative adversarial network, that's your GAN, and variational autoencoder, that is your VAE. Now, coming to GAN, it is a very interesting concept. What it does is it has got internally uh, two members, as I may name it. One is called as the generator and the other is called as a discriminator. Okay. Now, as the name suggests, you should be able to understand what they are doing. Generator should do what? Generate. And discriminator, as per my basic English understanding, is distinguishing in between something. Discriminate karo. Alag karo. है ना? So generator is going to generate new samples of text or images. I'm sorry, it's written text here. It should be text. New samples of text or images, right? So it is generating. Whatever you have asked him to give you, it is generating. Okay? But it doesn't give it to you in the very first go. It is evaluating those samples what the machine is giving itself, the generator is giving itself, and he is comparing it with the real data once, twice, thrice, 4 times. Have you seen the diagram of the neural network where we say we have multiple hidden layers and वो input ले रहा है और उसको modify करता जा रहा है in various layers. So something like that is happening here, that it is taking a set of images. Sorry, it is first generating a set of images and then it is comparing it with the real. वो अपने आप को ही ना improvise कर रहा. Nobody is doing it from the outside. We see the final output. Whatever I have asked him to do, I see the final output. But to give you that final output, it has gone through a certain set of process. What does that process comprise of? It comprises of two things, two entities. One is a generator and one is a discriminator. Okay? What is the generator doing? आपने जो उसको generate करने को बोला, it has generated that. Samples. ऐसा भी, ऐसा भी, ऐसा भी, multiple samples. Now the discriminator is going to evaluate these samples, that how close are they to my real one? Are they fake, looking fake, or they are very much near to the real? Okay. They evaluate and then keep on giving the input to the generator, ki improvise, no, next, no, next, no, next. Right? So they challenge each other and ultimately give you a more realistic sample. I mean, realistic output. Okay, so it's a very interesting concept. Generative adversarial network. It was introduced by Ian Goodfellow in 2016, quite a long time back. And it's a kind of a neural network architecture. Isko na layers mein imagine karo. This process of working is those hidden layers which we say. And there can be many of them. Okay? And these two entities, which is a generator and a discriminator, they keep on fighting with each other to get the best possible output. So पहले में हम बोल रहे हैं कि वो फेक जनरेट कर रहा है, फेक जनरेट कर रहा है, पर धीरे 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 the discriminator is instructing him कि नहीं ऐसे ये it's not like it ऐसे करो वैसे करो ऐसे करो करते 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 ultimately it gives you the most closest image or text or whatever correct figure. Okay, so the main principle behind these generative adversarial networks is you train the first one to generate a fake data. I mean, I'm not trusting what he's generating. And the second one to distinguish the real from the fake data. Okay? And you put them together to compete against each other. दोनों को भिड़ा दो. तो आपस में भिड़ते 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 ultimately what you're going to get is the best output. Okay? Rather than this being done with the user कि system ने एक generate करके दिया आपने बोला नहीं ये तो fake है. This is not the way it should be looking like. And you again tell him improvise, improvise. आप नहीं कर रहे हो उस चीज को. They are themselves doing it within that. Once the output has come, you can again reconstruct it, change it. But he is also not giving it to you in one flow. He is improvising it in many layers and many ways and then only giving you the final output. So that is your generative adversarial network. Generator who's generating the images or whatever, text or images, and the discriminator is evaluating them, that how much real it is. Something like this. We call it key sampling is being given, real face, different, and then वो random noise से generator उसको pick कर रहा है और generate कर रहा है randomly. And then the discriminator again working in multiple layers is able to differentiate between the real and the fake. See, it's almost similar. जो उसका sample है उसके साथ when it is testing, right? But they are still improvising. He's saying, no, this is fake. This is not real. This is not matching the real picture. So that is how it works. The second model is the variational autoencoders. There you have again a two-set program. One is an encoder and one is a decoder. Okay. And here generally it is used to detect anomalies or problems in the data or fill in the missing information wherever we have learned about it in pandas also. No, in the data if you have missing information then आपका analysis proper नहीं होगा. So there has to be somebody to fill in the missing information. Isn't it? We have functions to do that in pandas also. So that thing, filling the missing information anywhere if it is. So VAEs are programs designed to learn from the data uniquely, and they consist of two parts. One is an encoder, which understands the data and converts it into a hidden space called a latent space. It's actually the compressed representation of the actual data. उसको convert कर देता है and then उस पे work करता है, and then the decoder ultimately translates it back from the encoded form to the original form. Okay, so this is also one of the kinds of mechanism model which is being used, but I think the GANs are more popular in this particular scenario. But this is also another model which works. Moving further, again giving you a few more examples, and along with that, the basic setup which we follow. One is I give him a text and ask him to generate an image. Please give me an image of a jungle where you have these animals and a river and a mountain and this and that. So you are giving him a text and asking him to convert to image. I have not tried it in the other options, but definitely in Canva we have done it. So text to image, text to text. That again we have tried it. I have tried in Gemini, where I ask him to give me a kind of a maybe a letter. I want to propose something to the administration, so I want a letter written. So I've given him the text, I've given him the input, and it is generating the text for me. So text to text, image to image. You give him an image and ask him to इसके अंदर ये modifications कर दो. He's generating that new thing for you. Options are there. Audio generation. This also we have tried a little in Google's Music LM, wherein we have even Meta's AI, Meta AIs also we did try. So audio generation, you can have new music generated based on with the changes. Basis, keeping the basis correct. Like I've not really heard myself, but I've heard that the Sanyara songs have been uh, they're very popular. You all know that. So those songs have been kind of given to AI and been asked that if these songs were sung by Kishore Kumar, then how it is. So like the audio has been generated based on the input of the Sayana songs and on whose voice? Kishore Kumar's voice. So obviously the input, the data with which AI is working is that he should have all the Kishore Kumar's voice, the songs and also that becomes his training because he knows how Kishore Kumar's voice was, what kind of doodling he would do, what kind of pitch he would use, what kind of voice modulations he would use. So he's been trained on that. And because he's been trained on that, he is able to generate that. And one of my friends told me that those songs have actually come up better. Because we being oldies, we like Kishore Kumar's voice. Maybe that is what. But otherwise, it has been done. So I'm giving you one example where this kind of a thing is happening. And it's an AI generated thing. Again, video generation, we have tried doing it and it works pretty well. Though the figures are till date, they look, I don't know, somehow you can make out in certain cases that those figures are very much their movements. Nowadays, we see it in shorts also in YouTube also, that those videos which are AI generated, you can, as of now, make out that yes, they look much more clean, much more neat. Doesn't happen in the real case at times. Okay, but then these options are there for you. So text to image, text to text, image to image, audio generation, video generation. These are options of various types of the generative AI which works. Okay, now here we talk about generative AI, differentiating it from the kind of models we've been talking about till now, the basic machine learning models, discriminative models. Like generative AI is not doing any kind of analysis. है ना, जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं कि रिग्रेशन एनालिसिस करके मुझे डेटा बना के दो, प्रोजेक्टेड डेटा बना के दो फॉर द नेक्स्ट 5 years, ऐसा कुछ नहीं कर रहा है वो एट टाइम्स. ठीक है. सो डिस्क्रिमिनेटिव एआई या जनरेटिव एआई का वेयर इज द differentiating point. You must know that. So we have been talking about maybe the discriminative AI models till now, and now we have started working with the generative AI models. And every place they are giving you the option of generative AI in various softwares nowadays, rather than every software nowadays, that you may have that aspect too. Okay. So discriminative AI models focus on classifying the data by learning boundaries or between the different categories. Like I'm saying, you talk about we have learned, no, in a teachable machine, we have seen that I'm training my model based on the pictures of apple and mango. Apple, mango, pear, all fruits I'm giving him, and I'm training them that okay, these are my apples, various categories: green apple, red apple, yellow apple. And then with the mangoes, various varieties of mangoes I'm training him. And those sample pictures I'm giving him. Huge, hundreds and hundreds of them. And then I train the model to differentiate between an apple and a mango and a pear and a banana. ठीक है, so labeled data set मैंने उसको दिया, या to some places where I'm giving him unlabeled data set also, but labeled data set दिया, and it is able to differentiate. So this is not generative AI. He's not generating anything new. है ना? So what is this? This is discriminative AI model. It is distinguishing between, like I've given an example here, images of cars and bike. अब उसमें उसका identifying features, I mean categorization क्या होगा? The number of tires. A car will be having 4 tires and a bike will have 2 tires. 2 sitting capacity, 4 sitting capacity. Though in cars we have 2 capacity also. Some of the electric car models, covered or open, by which you can differentiate between these things. So that way it is discriminating. Again, distinguishing. Discriminate wala word aa jata hai, distinguishing. है ना? Then the second example, we have said that an email is whether it is a spam or a not a spam. That kind of a differentiation. It is not generative AI, it is discriminative AI models. It learns to differentiate between this and this. Okay? We have used the term discrimination where we have used it here, discriminator. So don't get confused. GAN में you've got 2 aspects, 2 members, 2 elements. One is a generator and discriminator जो आपस में काम करते हैं. We are not able to really see that. I give the input or I ask him for something and he gives me the final output. In this beach में, the generator and the discriminator keep working in a loop to give you the best thing, closest to the real. Okay? But here we are talking about the overall models, AI models. जो अभी तक हमने जिस चीज को रेफर किया always, those are all my discriminative models, whether labeled or unlabeled data पे जो काम कर रहा है. And now we are talking about the generative model. Okay? So don't get confused between these two terms. Specifically, this might be an exam question also. So purpose in terms of training, in terms of application, in terms of examples, we have given you the basic pointers in terms of generative and discriminative AI. If you understand, you may write it on your own, but try to keep it in these pointers only. वैसे ही याद करो, so that you are able to put your points in a very, very systematic and methodical manner. Otherwise, it becomes a very, big khichdi also. कि पर्पस क्या है, जनरेटिव एआई का पर्पस क्या है, उसका इनपुट क्या है, उसका ट्रेनिंग का फोकस कहाँ है, and then application examples you can definitely talk about. Fine. If you keep the pointers same, then the way you write it might be different than what is written here, but you also know that what you're focusing at. So you get a very good answer like that. I understand everything memorizing becomes very difficult, but then at least you have the pointers with you. किस के focus पे you want to write it, right? Then comes another model here. So we've talked about generative model, we've talked about discriminative model, and the third one we talk about here is the large language models. Now, see, we have initially started with maybe in class 9, then we did, initially we talk about the concept of, the word domains. Vision is one domain, language is another domain, and data science is another domain. That's a domain. Through the years, we've been discussing about models. Through the years, we've been discussing about types of learning. Through the years, we've been discussing about layered and unlayered kind of a thing. So in the entire process, language की जब बात हो रही है तो बैक एंड पे जो मॉडल हम बात कर रहे हैं, डोमेन इज डिफरेंट. ओके, डोमेन इज द ओवरऑल कि दिस पर्टिकुलर aspect of AI, is it included in, I mean, it is including anything related to language or not? See, language is included when you are saying text samajh raha hai. It is generating, I mean, it is understanding the text and taking it as an input. Of course, it is under the domain of NLP also. If it is understanding images, of course, it is in the domain of vision. So, domain is a complete different aspect. But here we are talking about the model back end pay internally at the base, which model is being used, and anything related to your language where you are performing a variety of NLP domain ke tasks. There, my large language model is being used. And why large language again? Because language itself is a huge thing. एक इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज हम इंसान वी स्टडी फॉर 12 years, 12+ your base years in preschool or you know a home also, and still we are not perfect in our language, isn't it? So learning a language and coming out perfectly well with it is a very difficult thing. वो भी एक constant process है. Humans also improvise. Similarly, machines are also improvising. AI is also improvising with time. ठीक है, बट द मेन कंसर्न इज द लैंग्वेज. जहां पे भी टेक्स्ट रिलेटेड काम हो रहा है, वेयर इट इज एक्चुअली पार्ट ऑफ इट एवरीवेयर. सो LLM model is being used. It's a deep learning algorithm, of course, because language itself is huge और उसको बहुत तरीके से we have to train, isn't it? Like what all categories they have given, tasks क्या क्या कर रहा है, generating and classifying text, which could include content creation, dialogue generation, story writing, poetry. Now, somebody who can do all this has to have a training which is amazingly well, isn't it? है ना? Until unless you are very well read, if you take a human I mean, as an instance, a human who is not a well read, if I ask a class 4 child to write a poetry, of course he will be able to write it, but his standard of writing may be very different from a person who is a 21-year-old and has MA English, or he's done his PhD in English or something, something, something. Because he's much more well read. So that is how the training matters, isn't it? So that's one part of it, generating and classifying text. Second is answering questions uh, in a conversational manner. Conversation, where the conversation is happening. Okay. You write scripts. So when scripts is happening, like in a chatbot also, it's a conversation. You ask, you say something, he answers something, like that. Then comes your code. I'm giving him the text. I want to write a program to generate this, and it's converting it into a working code. Okay. Then everywhere in basic search categories also, like in Google, I'm writing for something, it is able to complete the sentence. Why? Because it is able to understand what you're trying to say. So everywhere this large language models are being used. All your text translations, everywhere where text are involved. Of course, they are under the domain of NLP, but which model is working here? It's the language models, the large language model being used. Okay. Now again, I thought of giving you a distinguishing thing between the generative AI and the LLM. अब बहुत कुछ हो गया ना. We have discriminative AI also, we have generative AI also, we have large language model also. So what is where? Placing कहाँ है, किसका क्या? Okay. Now generative AI, अगर आप, if you see the examples or the categories we've been talking about in generative AI, we are saying text to image. Now text to image somebody can do only when he is able to understand the text well. Consider text to text. I'm giving him a format of writing a letter or the contents of the letter I want, and then he's generating things for me. अगर उसको समझ में ही नहीं आएगा मैंने क्या लिखा है, or I'm writing it in Hindi, I'm asking him to give me the output in English. So amongst these things, in order for him to work, of course, language is a part of it, isn't it? So generative AI becomes the broader category, which is focusing, उसका focus mainly है कि आपको कितना original नया content वो दे सके in terms of image, audio, video, code, anything, right? And your NLM becomes a specific type जहां पे भी text involved है. Of course, if I'm giving him an image and asking him to convert it into a video or add a audio to an existing video, but still I'm writing to him, I'm explaining him the thing ना कि मुझे चाहिए क्या, है ना? So वहां पे text is definitely coming into play. He has to understand what is being told to him, and that is understanding text, isn't it? That is why an LLM is a specific type of generative AI that is specialized for generating as well as understanding the human language. ठीक है? So keeping the domains aside, here we are talking about the major overall models nowadays which are being working upon to give you the various things what AI is doing. Okay, one is that discriminative part, that it is distinguishing between garbage and neatness. It is distinguishing between spam and not spam. It is distinguishing between a car and a bike. It is distinguishing between a red light and a green light. Okay, so that's one aspect of working of AI. The second aspect is new text, new video, new audio generation. So generative AI. And amongst everything here, you have language also everywhere at working. So LLM is also part of it. So all LLMs are generative AI, but not all generative AI models are LLM. It's part of it. They work in tandem. It's very important. Now there's one more thing here called as transformers in LLM. अब LLM को थोड़ा सा हम लोग और deep में consider करते हैं. The transformers in LLM. The primary use of transformers is to enable efficient and effective learning of the complex language patterns and relationships, again with vast amount of data. So they have given this term to you that these are like mechanisms wherein vast amount of text to data your machine is learning. Everything is happening on the basis of training itself. If it's being trained well, it will perform well. Okay. So here again, some of the very major large language models जो हम लोग आजकल use कर रहे हैं. Given some examples here like AI's GPT-4, Google Gemini, Meta's. These three companies are very popular. Anthropic, I've not used. Claude. Then you have Mistral AI's Mixtral. Okay. So these are some of the models, your large language models, which are being used nowadays. Fine. So that is one concept. Then, of course, the risks involved and few limitations. It's actually few as compared to what it's doing. Okay. Risk always with training of AI. See, LLM or generative or discriminative, whatever it is ultimately based on the training of the system. How well it has been trained. Okay. And training is always having a aspect of bias. If your data was biased with which it has been trained, then your output will not be as good as you want, as perfect without bias as you want. Okay, so your training data has to be bias free. That is very, very important. So risks involved with LLM, or I would say any model for that matter. It says that, of course, trained on the internet text, LLM may exhibit biases and concerns arise regarding data privacy. अब जहाँ पे आपको ट्रेनिंग देना है, जहाँ पे आपको ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ डेटा उसको प्रोवाइड करना है, तो आप डेटा तो कहीं से उठाओगे ना. एंड wherever from where you're picking up, you are affecting the privacy of the person, of the human itself. है ना? So that aspect is always there. But then, you can't help it. Until unless they are trained well, they will not perform well. For training, you need data, and for data, you have to breach the concept of privacy at times. Or you have to tell them. I mean, you have to, be vocal about it. Inform the user. Tell them that yes, it has been trained on this data. It has been using this kind of a thing. Accordingly, it might be taken up as a correct form. But biases is always a problem. Bias ka to you have to be very sure that when your data system is being trained, it's not done with the biased data. Sensitive data using in training में फिर वही हो जाता है confidential information is revealed. So that's another problem. Inputs intentionally crafted to confuse the model may lead to harmful or illogical outputs. They also experiment with them, no? So if you are kind of trying to train him with some intentionally confusing data, then later it may create some illogical issues. Okay. Limitations is that processing text requires significant resources. Of course, you have cost associated, you have high response time associated. It's not easy to develop an large language model because the amount of training involved, the amount of data required is huge. Otherwise, it will not work the way you want it to. LLMs prioritize natural language over accuracy, which may result in generating factual, incorrect, misleading information with high confidence. Now, whatever AI gives, we blindly follow it. But at times, it may be generating something which is not correct. And at times, if we check the data with the fact, we may find that there is uh, there might be some level of error also in that. So be sure that whatever you are picking up from AI is correct. LLMs might prioritize or memorize specific details rather than generalize, leading to poor adaptability. Again, because it keeps on training itself, learning itself, so kabhi it may memorize certain details which is biased. So adaptability issues will be there in that case because it has learned कि नहीं ऐसा ही होना चाहिए वो अड़ जाता है ना टाइप्स because it has learned that way. That is why these kind of issues are there. And that's, I don't think it is very specific to LLM. It could be generalized also. Wherever there's AI model involved, these kind of problems do happen. Now comes the ethical or the social implications. Again, very, very significant because nowadays we see videos, images which are disturbing at times and they are AI generated and हम लोग उसमें differentiate भी नहीं कर पाते कि वो fake है. And they may create a nuisance around in the social media or within the children community or within somebody who is not able to ignore that. Right? So it's very crucial for these companies to take up that responsibility when you give out something as an output. It is very, very important that you are able to, uh, you know, give things which are good and every part of the society is able to accept it and use it. That's very important. So your social concerns which are there, ethical concerns which are there, जिसमें से सबसे important है आपका deepfake technology, which is actually generating misinformation. And face swap is something which is dangerous. You may swap anybody's face with anyone and show that he is stealing, he's my burglar, he's a killer, he's a murderer, anything. Deepfake algorithms can generate compelling fake images, audios, videos, jeopardizing the trust in media. So if I'm seeing something, a video on the on any news channel, again I always have this question mark in my mind: whether it is true or whether it is false, whether it has been fakely generated to create that hue and cry and those uh, what do you say? These social media channels may do, or people to increase their followers, they might do these kind of things. Okay, so it is a major issue, concern that in the flow people start believing things which are fake. We've already discussed about bias. Bias is a problem, very much relevant issue, and it at times you know form let the perceptions of the young generation form in a wrong manner, because आप वही चीज दिखाते जा रहे हो एक बायस्ड डेटा उसको देते जा रहे हो. सो जो बच्चा उसको या जो यूथ उसको देख रहा है, somebody who is not having that much of judgmental power, he is or he or she is getting into a you know a very different kind of a mindset. These things we talk about jihadis and all that, So what is that? It is mind wash only. Na आपने वो चीज बोला 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 बार बार बोला. So then that creates a understanding in your mind that yes, that's correct. हम कहते हैं ना, झूठ को 10 बार बोला, जोर से बोला तो वो झूठ भी सच हो जाता है ना? So these kind of things are really problematic, and AI powered platforms have to ensure that they do not support or kind of encourage bias or discrimination, things like that. Okay, that is why this example has been given. The AI powered hiring platform developed by Highview has faced criticism for perpetuating recruitment bias. The platform may inadvertently discriminate against underrepresented groups by relying on historical hiring data, hindering diversity and inclusivity in employment opportunities. For example, if I say that there are certain categories of people who are being shown as downtrodden always. So that should not be there. Whenever you're talking about AI powered platform, these kind of things should not happen. So that's another major issue, social problem with these AI powered platforms. Okay. And third, of course, which the students have, I mean, we teachers are facing, that is your plagiarism. You are easily getting content from AI and giving it to your, giving it for your submissions, which is not correct. You have to understand that whether intentional or unintentional, they are wrong. Okay. So AI generated content, presenting that as your own work is definitely plagiarism, and you cannot do it. You should not do it. Okay. So these are the 3 pointers which we talk about when you say that ethical and the social implications of generative AI. One is the deepfake technology, the misinformation you are getting, and you are developing your perceptions accordingly. Bias and discrimination, a very, very important aspect. In a country like India, where you have layers and layers of inequalities or stereotypes, which really affect young generation a lot. And of course, plagiarism, which we are hearing about nowadays in our day-to-day life. You people are doing it, we people are doing it, everybody is doing it, right? But that is a concern. That's an issue. Okay. So points to remember: be cautious and transparent when you're using generative AI. Respect copyright and avoid presenting AI output as your own. That is unethical. And you must consult your elders or teachers or institutions for specific guidelines. Okay. With generative AI also, keeping yourself safe would be that you cite the resources. So ensuring proper attribution for AI generated content, to respect the original creators and comply with the copyright laws. That is important. Accuracy is you have to check it, verify the reliability of it, because if the AI model has been trained on biased data, then your output will not be correct. So it's your, it's important for you that you judge the accuracy before accepting that data directly. And of course, ethical use, acknowledging the AI tools uh, and provide context for generated content to promote transparency and ethical use. Whatever you do, do it ethically. That is very, very important. Okay. So here majorly we have discussed about 3 categories of models which you have to understand pretty well. If I take you back, one is your generative AI, wherein there are 2 terms which you have to remember under the GAN, which is Generative Adversarial Network. One is the generator, one is the discriminator. 2 people fighting each other to get you the real data or differentiate between the real and the fake data, which is happening within the system itself. You're not doing it from outside. You're getting the final output, and the process involves your neural network process, where we have studied about the multiple layers. The diagram also shows you here that multiple layers are there, and in every layer it is doing that checking to differentiate between the real or the fake. Okay. Next key term which is important is the discriminative AI models. Generative is something different. Discriminative is completely something different. Okay. So your discriminative AI models, what we have been studied till now, we are talking about those uh, machine learning algorithms where we have discussed about your supervised learning and unsupervised learning, where it is discriminating always between data. And then comes your large language models also, wherein a variety of NLP tasks are being done, and it is very well part of your generative AI also, because without language understanding, nothing will actually work. So it's definitely part of it. Okay. So these are the things which are very, very significant, and it has to be done thoroughly. Go through it. If you have any doubts, then we can discuss them. Okay. Chalo then. Bye bye. Take care.